theory prefer a certain kind of data. And then saying that, writing it in your methodology section. Because of this theory, and these things within this theory, this is the kind of data I'm going to use, and this is the kind of analysis I'm going to do. Because it speaks to the theory, because it connects to the theory.
So you could say the issue is you cannot match
Yes.
between the data and the theoretical. That's one of the issue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So if it's an
lack
issue, yeah.
And lack of the theoretical knowledge is an issue.
It could be as well, yeah. So you want to make sure, and so that's why sometimes when you get that data, everything goes backwards. Like everything gets rewritten, because it's that sort of backward step of, this doesn't quite work, right? And so that's how it can be an issue. And so you need to really be thinking of all these things before normally. But even in the writing, when you're at the writing stage, you need to address these issues as a justification for your choices, as the why I did this, right? So, I like charts. So, I do want you guys to do this. So on paper, actually try to do this. So what I would like you to do is, in the center of your paper, write your argument. So remember, I had you yesterday write in one sentence, what is your argument? So I want you to put in the middle, what is your argument? And then, what I want you to do on the left-hand side, thank you. On the left-hand side, what are your theories? So, neoliberalism to understand blah, 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 because. Please note, there's a because statement. And then here I have my neo-imperialism to understand blah, 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 because. So I'm using nationalism to understand blah, 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 because. So please note, always the because statements. Then what I want you to do on the right-hand side of your paper is your methods. How are you collecting data? So I'm collecting data, so I'm, doing focus group interviews, demographic analysis. This is me just coming up with examples of ways of collecting data. You know how you're collecting data. But please note, with each one, there's a because. So I'm doing this to find whatever because. So what are the because statements? And then at the bottom here, which we haven't talked much about, is how are you analyzing your data? So there are different ways of analyzing data. So discourse analysis, thematic analysis, statistical analyses, right? And then, once again, I'm using these because. And then on either side, in one or two sentences, how does the theory and the analysis fit? How does the collection and the analysis fit? So I actually want you to draw this and do this right now for your research. So you walk out with a map. Take it away. Thank you. Anyone? You're serious? Does that mean you want to present your chart?
Yes, of course.
Go for it.
Ladies first.
The ladies' face hasn't there. They say it was from something like that.
Yeah. Ladies, I see. Gentlemen or...
The lady jumped to the cliff.
Yes.
It's a huge jump. Lady.
And so in one to
Collaboration.
Well, I mean, it originally comes from trying to be polite, so ladies first. But it can also be used to, make them go first. So, do you want to go?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also presented.
You'll present it. Okay, go for it.
The argument is the challenges
Sarah, could you please just talk about the title of our...
The argument, their argument is the challenges.
She's not agreeing with us.
The challenges behind implementations of e-government. This is the whole argument. The theories they use is literature review
Okay.
about the whole case. Case studies from around the world, how they deal with other countries, how they
Do
deal
an
with
analysis of other case studies.
Then about the data collection, using surveys like questionnaires, asking questions about the e-government in general, interviews with individuals, especially those who are in charge, the specific يعني أشخاص المعنيين
Decision makers on the
Decision makers.
Okay, the answer is decision makers.
police departments and things like that.
Okay.
Other data can be collected from the governmental websites. They are already on the website, so we can have data from them. About how the collection and analysis fit together, we think that people awareness and the infrastructure,
Yes.
internet infrastructure, electrical issues, the IT staff awareness, and that's the
Cultural.
the
Cultural
cultural
value.
issues, yeah.
Okay.
The ways of how they analyze the data, or we analyze the data, of course it will be statistical analysis. Why? Because we have already statistical data, a lot of amount of data that need to be analyzed, and making charts and tables, and maybe pie charts to show how many people think it's a good idea to make e-government, how many think it's not a bad idea. We need more. There are a lot of obstacles in the way of this process.
Okay.
That's the map, but we missed the
The last one.
how did we have enough time?
To do the theory analysis. I have a question. How are you analyzing the interviews? Because you showed me how you were analyzing the statistical data. How are you analyzing the interviews?
Through questionnaire and...
So you're going to do interviews. But then when you have the interviews, you have all this text.
Yes. On,
How are you reading the text? What are you looking for?
It is online.
No.
We
No, no,
have,
but what are you looking for?
we're looking for which of the barriers is the most.
Okay.
So
So you're going to be looking for specific barriers?
Yes.
Because if you're interviewing experts,
Yeah.
what do you want from them?
The fix, is it cultural, is it infrastructure, electrical or internet, is it which different barriers?
Okay.
Or either the corruption of the government don't allow you to do the e-government. So we made a report, tell the government, this is the first barrier.
Yes.
So we could, or the universities could work on it to make it as a level to implement the e-government.
Yeah. Okay, so you're looking for themes, is basically what I'm getting at. You're looking for themes.
So
Yes.
when we made the survey, so we found that most of the people, in, like for example in Suleimani, they are not happy to share their family information to be online.
Okay.
Yeah, they say our information we go to another person to third party.
Yes.
So it's a very big problem.
Yeah.
The second thing we found, the people always, they are not quite familiar with the IT infrastructure, so they don't trust, the IT facility. Most of them are, they are saying if our, transaction
Yeah.
by
Data can
by
leak
that
or, yeah.
might be better. So yes.
Okay, all right. So that works. So you've thought about these things. That's great. Thank you, by the way, for doing that for them. Poor guy. So, sort of dismiss that corner of the room. Anyone else? Come on up.
I have a research about anthracyte this site is an archaeological site in the north of Iraq. So I'm trying to establish a connection between community in that area and the archaeological site to create a new sustainable development in that area. So anyway, the methodology is that way. This is the chart.
Okay.
Collecting data, and then how does theory and analysis, and how write your argument, and then the analysis. So collecting data is collecting satellite images, spatial archival, spatial photographs, the different periods, and archival data, report, and archival area photographs, and community values through reports, and different information about the community through interviews.
Okay.
So I'm coming to the argument, the question, how to understand the site, the archaeological site, what's happened to the site the last 30 or 70 years, and also how to make the survey by satellite images or by interpretation to create some new data to understand what is the change happened for this site the last 70 years. And also how to use the different techniques with the social science and the pure science to connect between them to make a new contribution, like merging between social science and new technology and modern technology. So, and when we come to the analysis, analyze the aerial photograph and satellite images by photo interpretation, using my skill, my background in that, to find anything new evidence about the site or new sites in that area or new archaeological site, and also to see how the community and the city or the village connected to the site. And then connect the community life, tradition, habits with that site by the data that I have. And then making a sequence of satellite images for the site to see the difference for the site in the last 100 years or 70 years through these techniques.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I like the combination of both understanding how the site has evolved as well as understanding how the community sees themselves with the site. That's a really nice sort of interdisciplinary way of looking at it. Nicely done. All right, I think we can do one more. I have never seen you so quiet. What happened? All the questions, always, and then all of a sudden, silence. Do you want to go up? Come on, come on. So this became all untold. Yeah.
I think so. I have.
No, talk to these questions. Talk to these questions.
My research for my paper titled about how to translate or translation of that clause from English into Arabic. How to translate that clause from English into Arabic. For methodology, the approaches of this study will be qualitative because I have no numbers to use as a sum. This is for approaches. About method data collection, the data collection will be selected from the American novel Double Man and the Sea. I have chosen this novel for more attractions. And I will choose only that clause from the text. And also I will select my samples from the Arabic translated by Al-Qasimi. Al-Qasimi are also famous in Arabic community. I have used it in order also for more attractions as well as to clear the way from the translation. This is how principles or steps to choose the data. First step, I will have the book. That means it is needed to buy the book.
Yes.
And then I will read the book many times, and then I will focus on that clause. I will choose many samples, and I will focus only the problematic area for this. And after that, I will choose the translated text in Arabic. And then this is for collecting data. When all collected data will be ready, I will point it according to research questions. When the data will be ready, then I will move to the next point, which is the analyze or analyzing method. Analyzing method, I will also analyze my data according to that clause functions by comparing the source text with the target text and to find the similarities and differences between both of them. Then I will adopting my theories. For example, my theories consist of, according to my opinion, every research it is needed two theories. One theory for building or analyzing or analysis. And then you need another theory for testing. For example, my data clause. That clause means the clause is a linguistics area. It's a grammatical area. As you know, there are many schools of grammar in English. I have chosen functional grammar according to Holiday. Why? Because Holiday focus on functions more than structure. Different of Chomsky, different of structural grammar, different of require. Because this is very belongs to my my subject or my topic, which is that clause function. This is for how to choose clause in order to know the limitation of the clause, types of clause and functions of clause. This is for analyzing. Yeah. Then I will choose another theory, which is a new Marxist theory, semantics and communication. Why? In order to test the meaning. How the intended meaning translated by the translator from the source text into Arabic text. Yeah, that and then why I choose a new Marx? The new Marx is derived his theory from Naida. The differences between Naida and the new Marx, the semantic type of translation, the new Marx, I think so is equal for Naida form. Because according to new Marx, say semantics, it's used same a mirror of the author brain. That means same meaning and same structure. This types of translation, which I mean semantics, it's good for use the same language or the sister languages. For example, when we use Europe languages, same Germany or Dutch and French, because the structure is very close together. But when I am using or I use between or contrast between two languages, same Arabic and English, there are differences because they belong to different families. Yeah, different families means different structure. When I translate or when the translator translates the text, that means there are grammatic area that differences structure between both of them. For example, the problem is in English that clause can be deleted. Yeah?
Yeah.
But in Arabic cannot be deleted. That means the translator must or have to restructure the deleted data clause from English in Arabic text. I have used or adopting a Newmark because according to Newmark V diagram for Newmark, Newmark has 8 methods for announcing data. The last one, semantics and communicative. Here I have used because semantics and communicative is accurate and economy. That means the result, accurate means same 1 plus 1 equals 2. No more, no less. That means the translator here in this area, same the scientific area. It means testable. I can test my data in order to achieve accurate translation. This is my model. No one have used before. This is my gift for all the world. All of you knows when you translated a simple sentences, not a complex sentences, via Google Translate, you find many mistakes. Same lexical problems, different meaning, same structure problems. But when you use my model, I mean Holiday and Newmark, you will have accurate translated according to functions of that clause. My contribution is good. I think so. It's can be used to translate all languages all over the world, and you will achieve accurate translation. And my contribution also can be used theoretical implication. What I mean theoretical implication? Theoretical implication means can use these 2 theories for collecting data. If you like to collect data according to functions, it will be very easy to collect your data. As well as, this is for theoretical implication, for practical issues or practical applications, this is very important for the society. I mean, or contributions means you add something for the body of knowledge or the body of your field. Here when I add or contribute to the body of the knowledge, I mean my contribution all over the languages over the world. That means this is practical. Practical, how? Practical to serves the society. When translator use this model, will achieve accurate translation. That means the reader, you, or the reader of the stories will be read the same the native reader. That means because it is accurate translation. This will help to increase the knowledge of the society and to improve by mixing 2 cultures. I'm so sorry to see you. So I'm sorry to see your friends.
All right. So you get to see the theory linking through all of those. All right. So final thing for the session. So we're back to this, because in the end it's about writing it and getting it published. So based on what we've just done with the mapping, where do you write about methodology?
It's everywhere.
It's almost everywhere. Well, we know we need it in the introduction and conclusion, and we know we need it in the methodologies, but also the theory from the literature review should link to the methodology, and we know that the methodology you choose should be directly linked to your findings and discussion, because it's how you're analyzing it.
And also, literature review is kind of collection of data.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Well, yes, it's sort of data of other people before you.
Yeah.
So always need to introduce your methods in terms of setting up your overall argument. So you introduce your data collection and analysis methods. You link your choices to your overall argument, and you link it to your theory. So all the theory that came before now gets linked explicitly in the methodology. Yeah.
I remember when today first you talked about the theory. It was linked with literature review, but now it's regarding to the methodology.
Yeah.
There is no link.
Because methodology, part of your methodology is the theoretical implications, right? And so that's why you have to link it to the theory. And then discuss all the issues influencing your choices. Why did you make the choices you made? So that why. And then refer to how your data analysis and collection, so your methods, led you, and the analysis being key here, led you to these findings. And then finally, of course, any conclusions about the methods in your arguments and the role for future research needs to be considered in your conclusions. So, as you can see, what looks like a very simple structure actually involves a lot of linking. It's all about the connection. So it's like, you're like putting layers. So your first layer is that theoretical layer that you then continue to talk about throughout the whole paper. Then you add the methodological layer, which links to the theory and continues through the rest of the paper. Then you add your data, which then needs to go through the theory and the methods to reach conclusions. So it's like a nice sort of layering. So as you introduce each thing, so when you introduce the theory must continue. Then when you introduce the methodology, it must continue through. So that when we hit that data, everything is connected through the data. And I'm done with you. So I think, well, actually, technically it ends in 1 minute. So are there any questions, actually, before I then give up the floor? Okay, then I'll give up the floor. So I think we normally have about a break.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
5 to 10 minute break maximum.
10-minute break, so a 10-minute coffee break?
Yes.
Great.
Just listening to one of these slides.
Oh, because I think with the light, a photograph won't work well, so that's why they're finished. Well, that's, it's on the, does it work?
Look at you guys,
Are you doing it?
I know, but I will give you the certificate that we give the
Oh, it's
same. You
sorry.
guys hold it.
this is all staged.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting
The
pretend down
cameras don't record it.
Dr. Talib Muhammad.
Although for that, I'll give research secretary.
Actually, one of the intended person Ms. Kazan, she was not having the Ms. Kazan,
دكتورة زبي
Stay where you are.
the big man. And the star of the show, Mr. Alan Khalid, whose photo will be photoshopped. shocked as well.
Okay. So, we've come more or less full circle. I'll be speaking about successful grant proposals. Obviously, this is an important component of any academic, especially in the UK, raising money for research, for your own research, for the research of your department, faculty. We are all expected now in the UK to be quite active in raising funds from funders, donors. I think UCL, I'm not sure, LSE, it's become even quite very comprehensive. Every single academic has to actively pursue grant funding. Every single academic. Very, very difficult. And the British government is increasingly creating a understanding the relationship between development and academia. Or is pursuing a project in this sense. To pursue a project where it attempts to have both development projects implemented and pursued in places like Iraq, but as well as working through UK universities. Nahrain Network is a project like that. It's funded by international development money, but it's implemented through the UCL History Department. Eleanor Robson, I'm sure some of you know her, is the director of this project, and she's also the head of the History Department. She's an historiologist. She's a historian of ancient Iraq. And so she spent many months preparing this project. Some projects were not successful. And this is a £1.8 million project. Some projects weren't successful, so imagine that you spend 6 months working on a project and then it's not successful. So there's a lot of perseverance, a lot of patience in preparing proposals. I'll get to that in a bit. So the Nahrain Network is really about, so I'll give you the content of what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to speak about the Nahrain Network, the project I work for, and it's based on the Iraq publishing workshops were based on the Nahrain Network, and our relationship will work with people like Rojin, Ala, and others in Iraq with Iraqi universities. So it's a higher education project in a way. It's a project that is being implemented through a UK university with international development money. So DFID, Department for International Development, has funded this project that's being implemented through a university on heritage, but we're in history. So imagine all the interdisciplinary components being accrued and developed as this project is as it evolves and as it's designed. So again, it gives you understanding that, and especially in Iraq, we have very strict disciplines. People in GIS or people in medicine or people now, I find it very difficult to break out from the very strict disciplines they've been trained in. And this is very, very difficult in Iraq. This is a kind of project that attempts to break that kind of mold, at least at this level. It's very difficult in Iraq to do that. People who work in history, for instance, I work at the College of Archaeology in Mosul, or I go to the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage in Baghdad, and I say to them, I'm not a historian. I'm not a historian. I work in the history department as a postdoctoral researcher, and I'm not an archaeologist, but I work on a heritage project. How is that possible? It's possible because I'm in development studies. So again, lots of things to think about. And you can tell a lot from these projects. So sort of tracing back, and we can reverse engineering, I think someone said that before, the project and how we can move away from this project and start to understand more about the underpinning of these projects and how they're implemented and the theory, the methodology, by looking at a project, and this is what I do in my own research, so I look at civil society strengthening programs in Iraq after the war. My research is on the formation of Iraq's NGO sector, Iraqi NGOs, including Kurdistan in the 1990s, and then from 2003 onwards. So I look at projects, and I try to understand how projects are developed and designed, and how they're implemented. As my supervisor, Jonathan Goodhand, at the School of Oriental and African Studies, I finished my PhD, but he was my supervisor then. He said to me, I understand projects when they hit the ground. So when they hit the ground, they take a different dynamic, as opposed to just when they are, as they are designed. So you have the, of course, and I'll get into all of that. There's a lot of things we have to cover. So I'll get into that. I just wanted to just break that to you and just talk about that. So I'll be looking at the Nahrain Network. I'm going to speak also about our projects, and I'm going to speak about the scholarships program. Hopefully I'll speak to Dr. Ala and Dr. Regina speak about, because they both benefited from the scholarships program that we have at the Nahrain Network. And I'll speak about our research grants opportunity. So, and I think that's important, we have small and large grants. And these are research grants, but also development oriented. Again, we're funded by a development agency in the UK. And then I'm going to go through the application for the scholarships program. I think that's important. I'm always asked about that. If I have time, I can speak about the grants application, if there are questions regarding that. And I can go through that a bit. And I will have a group exercise, and I also speak about abstracts. Abstracts, going around full circle back to where we started, and one of the key questions was regarding abstracts. But abstracts in relation to projects. Research projects that are funded, not just journal papers, slightly different, but also very important, very much connected to the things that we've been discussing today, and yesterday in particular. So I'm going to speak about the Nahrain Network. Nahrain Network, as I said, is £1.8 million 4-year program that is designed to strengthen Iraq's cultural infrastructure, particularly in relation to sustainable development. Don't ask me what sustainable development means in relation to heritage. It's very, very difficult to understand that. And I always ask UK and non-UK academics to tell me about it. I think in other areas it's more measurable. In relation to heritage, it's very, very difficult. But I'm working on that, and we can discuss that afterwards. So there are 5 aims in the Nahrain Network. And the first is to better understand the current situation in relation to heritage. And when I speak about heritage, I mean the cultural infrastructure in Iraq. So including archaeology and other things that we can speak about. Raise the profile of local expertise. This is very, very important. This is what we've been speaking about the past 3 days. It's getting your voices out in journal papers and other mediums that are important in terms of influencing international policy in relation to Iraq. Your voices in international journals and academic circles internationally. This is what the Iraq Publishing Workshop is about. And the third is to help heritage organizations better understand and serve local needs. So what does that mean? It means also people like Regine, universities, NGOs that we work with, and people who actually work in local communities. And of course, to contribute to post-conflict healing and reconciliation. So again, looking at heritage and its social impact, and the way in which it can reduce social tension in society. So again, there are 3 strands. In the first stage is scoping, capacity building, capability development, partnership. And then we have the funding, which I'll speak about, which is the grants that we have, which is £800,000 in terms of the total grants that we have. These are the research grants, not the scholarships. And evaluation legacy. This is the kind of project, which is I think the first of its kind in Iraq and maybe internationally, that looks at development and heritage. And this is quite new. And it was designed by Eleanor Robson. So it wasn't designed by me. But it's based on her work in Iraq. She's a former director of the British Institute for the Study of Iraq. She has a lot of experience in the country. And so she designed this program. And the last aspect, the last component of that evaluation, legacy. So also influencing international policy. Very, very important. There's been systematic exclusion of local voices, particularly in relation to antiquity, history, heritage. And this is what this project is about. And again, we go into the development, social development and other aspects surrounding development, which is of course endemic instability, poverty, youth unemployment, massive population. We have that across the country. In Kurdistan and the rest of the country, massive levels of unemployment. And so the idea behind this project is to look at heritage also meaning tourism, potentially addressing some of these issues. Funded by the Arts Humanities Research Council, so a bit like the BA, very important body, GCRF. So GCRF is the Global Challenges Research Fund. So GCRF is very much it's the fund for the International Development Agency, DFID, Department for International Development, and it's designated 1.5 billion pounds from its international aid money to this fund, Global Challenges Research Fund. And the Department for International Development has created this fund to work with universities in the country, in Iraq, in UK, to implement projects in developing countries. So it's also an experiment in the UK. Nothing is certain. Projects have failed. Many projects have failed in Iraq. I can give you many projects that have failed in Iraq from my own experience looking at UN and many other US aid, massive failure and corruption and so on and so forth. So there's no certainty in these projects. So I always advise you, academics and non-academics, to always focus on the things that you think are important to your own research, your own developmental sort of your career path, rather than just following the money. We can get to that in a bit. So the project attempts to work as much as possible with Iraqis in Iraq, including KRI. In Erbil we have a center with Holer, Kurdistan, and we have two small projects, two small grants, and we have a large grant with SPU. So that's some of the work that we do, and we'll come back to it. But we always included in the research grants and the scholarships. We have this broad banner called Sustainable Development of Heritage, but you propose the projects, so Iraqis propose the projects. So you design the project. We don't say this is not a good project, this is a bad project. We assess it, obviously, but you design the outputs, the objectives, the aims, based on your needs and your assessment of the situation in Iraq. And I think that's really important because most projects, internationally, most projects implemented in Iraq are designed outside the country. I mean, this was designed outside the country, but it's actually comes out from Eleanor's participation with and communication with lots of Iraqis here across the country.
So the center in Erbil,
Yeah, it's
who's funded by the university or is it?
no, it is UKH. You know it?
Oh yeah, in Kurdistan area.
Yeah, and someone called Anwar Ainaid.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he runs the center.
It's with the School of Social Science.
I'll send you the, and you can find it on our website. UKH. Yeah, we can speak about this a bit because I'll come back to it. Again, NGOs, we work with local organizations. This is in Mahatma, the station in Baghdad, which is social enterprise. I think there's a new one here in Suleimania, entrepreneurship. There's a new one here, right there, yeah. On co-working spaces.
When did they open
Which one?
the station?
The station is, no, it was last year, 2017, I think.
I know, and the branch in Suleiman.
No, it's not a branch. It's just one. It's a Kurdish one right here in Suleimania. It's, I think, in the old tobacco factory. I'll send you.
I know, okay.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. It looks at art, entrepreneurship, and so on. So yeah, working with youth, also very important. So we'll have the scholarships program. So we have 20 scholars in total in 4 years. In 2019 we have 12 two-month UK placements. And these scholarships are about really your research. 2 months, up to 2 months in a UK research institution. It could be a museum. It could be hosted at a university. And the deadline, the next deadline is the 15th of August. So Dr. Ala and Dr. Rojin benefited. I think Ala was at Oxford University and Rojin was at Glasgow University, and it was based on the ROC projects. So the scholarships are, I wouldn't say training, they're more about your own research. And it's not training. If you put training in the application, because we're not there to train Iraqis about how to do heritage, right? You're there to develop your own timetable and your own path to the goals you are interested in pursuing. So again, it is about collaboration. So if you have an academic in UK that you're very much interested in, particularly those who are covering heritage, then yeah, you can speak to him or her, and we'll go into the application. But it's important to have a host organization. If you do not have a host organization, then you can speak to us. But we need to know more about your research. So I get emails saying, I need a host organization. I don't know what the research is about. So, yeah. So these are some of our scholars. Dr. Rojin. And you were looking at storytelling. You were looking at learning, the learning environment in museums.
Yes, using digital technologies for storytelling and emotional engagement.
And you were based at Glasgow University.
Yes.
Okay.
And I got ice, or like they call cream on the top, was because I was working on an existing EU funded project called Emotive.
Okay.
Yes, because you see, and actually just recently I was in the UK, University of Kurdistan, however, they were asking me to talk about my experience, so that I am encouraging their scholars to apply for this visiting scholarship. One suggestion that I have really, which ties back to what Mihir mentioned, he mentioned more in a context of funding. Don't look for the money, look for the research interest. I was saying don't look just to go to UK, look for the academics you really want to connect with. So I mean, the research that you really want to develop, because one of the reasons that my experience was exceptionally successful was that I found a person who was like, I started to follow and read about her article in my PhD, and then when I realized, she is one of the people who was cited the most in my PhD, and then when I learned about this application. At that time I had connection with many UK universities, with Leicester, with Reading, with UCL, so I would have somebody ask, can you give me a host, can you become a host and something like that. But because for me, I really wanted to connect with him. In fact, it took a while for him to come back to me, but I almost missed the deadline for catching the thing. But then when she got back, because of the similarity of our research area, she got me involved, thank you very much for her, for Dr. Maria Economo, involved me with an existing EU-funded project, which is a big Horizon 2020 project called Emotive, that's using emotional storytelling for cultural heritage engagement using digital technologies. And that, because it was EU funded, so it had partners from 8 institutions across 5 EU universities. And through this, I was invited to Greece, actually, during my visiting scholarship, to actually talk as an international expert, contribute to the workshop, but also, do help with, with some of the works that, because I was also helping with their research part, as well as invited as an international expert, and that as an international expert, and that helped me to connect even to more scholars in that area that I was interested in. So that's why I say it's an, what they call it, cream on, like, it was an icing on the cake, really, in that sense, because I went there to work at the University of Glasgow and then got this double thing by working in another group, because I was working in an existing project, not just coming up with a small research scale, so I got involved in a bigger part.
Yeah. So what I recommend is, okay, we have these opportunities and there are probably other opportunities, but engage with other academics without necessarily an interest being there, just other than intellectual engagement. Because you never know when you might meet that person. And of course, to exchange information and ideas and knowledge. And this is what this whole research is trying to strengthen UK-Iraq research collaborations. So I always recommend, if you have someone, a lawyer that you follow, a lawyer in the UK, and he's or her, she's amazing research that you're interested in, communicate with them now. Just for the sake of it. I'm interested in your research, I'm based in Hawler, or I'm based in Slemania, and these are the things, let's communicate, let's Skype. And this is what my supervisor at the PhD level always told me, this is what you do as an academic. You engage and you go and you speak. And I wasn't always very good at that, I'm still not always.
I took some workshop to get better at it.
Yeah, you're very good actually. So we have other beneficiaries from the Visiting Scholarship Program. We have 2 former directors of Mosul University Library. And Makhzoumi doesn't have a PhD. The last guy on the left, first one on the left. But he has an organization called Bil Weekend, in the weekend, which has this tour. It's a tour company, social enterprise. And he benefited enormously. British Library, British Museum, ICOMOS. I think he went to Reading.
Yes.
These are hosts, but we don't encourage multiple hosts. We encourage one host. But in this case, it was different because he wasn't an academic. He was trying to get more experience and learn. We'll come to you, Ala. Get your opinion in a bit. Oh, there's your name there. So these are the scholarships that have been completed, that we have, not all completed. Dr. Ala, he was on, working on Hatcher at Oxford University, but he's in GIS. He's on the geographical sensing information, but he was able to tie, and again going back, to break free from that strict discipline he's been in, and to use that for community heritage in Hatcher. Very, very important. This is what we attempt to do. Mahar al-Hili, developing university teacher skills, effective study of history. Musa Saleh, he's nearly finished and we'll go back to the UK tomorrow, I think. He's based at Sheffield University. Dr. Ali Naji on Najaf heritage. He's an engineer. He's like you, but he's looking at heritage in Najaf. So he's looking at community relationships and society. Very active. Sadr Khalil from the Prime Minister's Office, but he has his PhD from Sheffield in heritage, also Najaf heritage actually. He's looking at advocacy and heritage, cultural policy. And we have others. So the deadline again, more women applicants. Eleanor wrote that. So some of these are her slides. Yeah, I'm not sure if okay.
So women in the room.
Yeah.
So let's get out.
Okay, so we speak about the grants fund. We'll go back to the scholarships. Because I want to go through the actual application with you. So you can, because so when we prepared that application for the Iraq publishing workshop, I think I had 102 applications. Okay? Some of them, there were 2 parts. Do you remember? Some of the ones who applied. There were 2 parts. One was the abstract, and the other was the personal statement. But I got a lot of applications, no personal statement. Or the personal statement was copy-pasted from CV. So again, we'll go through the application, but I think it's very, very important to read the terms of any application. Now for the next list. And just to complete the application. To complete the application is important. So again, we have £800,000. I think we spent, I don't know, nearly half of it now? Less than half? And we have small grants, £30,000, and large grants up to 100 grand. And the large grants up to 18 months, and the small one up to a year. The large grant deadline was, the last one was 15th of May, so there are no more large grants, but there are small grants, and there's the next round in November 2019. They're going to be assessed, the grants that we have. Some of the projects that we have, Rojine's project, Cultural Heritage Network for Kurdistan, Challenges and Opportunities, and that's it. The last one is not a large grant, just a small grant. And we have another one in Babylon, with Reading University, I think.
With Leicester.
With Leicester?
Yes,
Ruth Young. Yeah. And Safina project, which looks at crafts, watercrafts in the country, very important. And Noah's Ark, reimagining Noah's Ark. Again, reclaiming this as Iraqi heritage rather than heritage of the West. I think that's very important. This is some of the things that we have to be looking at. Safina project, Rashad. He's an artist. He doesn't have a PhD. He's an artist, but he's been able to recreate the mashahif, which are the canoes, right? And the gufaf, which again, these are important cultural icons in Iraqi history, Mesopotamian history. He created a model. He actually created the actual mashkof, the tarada, the sheikh's canoe. These things were dying out. There were no more gufas. Gufa, which is the coracle shaped round boat, not used in the marshes, but used to transport people from shore to shore.
That one. At the back, the black one? Yeah.
Rashad. This is the Gufa, but I'll show you the photos of the Gufa. Yeah. So again, this is about heritage, reclaiming heritage, especially endangered heritage. These are crafts, which are, according to Rashad, is our link to the past as the crafts. That's the way he looks at it. So he recreated the mashahif. So these are now, or have been, produced of fiberglass. So all of this is made of wood and some metal. Very, very important. And again, it's important for tourism, but also history, Iraqi history, Mesopotamian history, which is all shared from the north to the south. And that's what links Iraq, is like rivers in this environment. Very, very important project. And now he's working on the Venice Biennale, representing this in the Venice Biennale next year. The Gufa. These are all new Gufaf. So, no one, for since I think early 80s, no one is making the Gufaf anymore. They died out. So he went to the last person, very old age individual, I think in Hilla, and he recreated this.
So they got the funds.
No, so it's more, it's a good question. So please ask me questions as I go along.
Yeah.
So the fund is actually sort of an experimental archaeology fund, or an experimental heritage fund, producing research through the recreation of these boats.
So this is not the end goal. This is part of the process, but this person is talking about, we are reviving this and researching this as part of the big
And the connections too, between the boat, the environment, the material environment, the materials they use. It's very, very important in terms of documenting this. Again, this is what we're trying to do before things die out in Iraq, with all the changes that are happening in the country. The Gufa. According to him, it was part of Noah's Ark. The Gufa. You can see this in the Assyrian reliefs. The Mashahif also, same. This is British Museum, the Iraqi Museum. You can see it in the Assyrian reliefs. Some of them, of course, are outside the private collections. I can send you this. Reviving Iraq. This is just a small project, by the way. This is a £30,000 small grant. The sail. No one has used the sail that he's used here on the left. This has traditionally been used here, but he's first to use it for a long time, to revive it. So according to him, Noah's Ark looked like this. It didn't look like that boat that we see, which is often seen in the Bible. It looked like this, right? Kelek, which is a raft, right? The Gufa, and Mashahif, and all put together. And why is this important? This is important because all of this was made from local materials in the country. So the gear, which is from heat, traditionally, which is seepage, natural bitumen seepage. And that was used, of course, in Babylon and Assyria to protect buildings, stairs, and that comes naturally out from the ground. And that's part of this. So as I showed you in the Mashahif, was sealed, covered in gear, and bitumen. Very important. So Noah's Ark probably looked like this. Imagine though, we don't know what it looked like. But it didn't look like a Viking ship, right? Again, reclaiming this heritage. Using our knowledge systems and our own materials from the country. Very important. Other small projects that we have, textile, with a textile museum in Erbil, in Qalat Erbil. Okay? And that is about crafts, but it's really and with Samawa, but mostly it's Kurdish. It looks like, again, at the importance of textiles in the country, in Kurdistan. This is a very important project. Well, I can't even talk about it, that's how important it is. Right, this is about a very precious, important site in the country, and we're documenting it. Contested, hard to reach, a site where it's important to all religions, Jews, Christians, Muslims, probably others. We'll talk about it privately. Other projects, the Babylon project, Leicester University. We have these two. We have the project in Holair, which is postgraduate teaching program. It's with the people around N1. And we have this project, which is Nineveh University, and Mosul University as a partnership actually. And that is to look at community heritage in Mosul. We have another project, which is not here, which is about community heritage also in Mosul. And to work with secondary schools, but these haven't yet. This has been implemented, and these two, this one and the Mosul University one, the other Mosul University one, haven't yet been implemented yet. Contracts have been prepared. These are small projects. Advocacy, this is what we do. Previous head of UNESCO, Lewis Haxthausen. Minister of Higher Education, no longer, but before. Actually, all these people have left. Lewis has left, and Mesa has left too. Riyadh? Who knows Riyadh? I know. Yeah, that's good.
He's followed.
Yeah, Chatham House. So we're working with Chatham House to produce cultural policy, advice and advocacy, and a paper with Chatham House. So your input in relation to heritage is very important. To get that into a Chatham House. First, Chatham House does not do cultural heritage or heritage, but we think it's important to look at politics, heritage in the country. That's Louise Haxthausen, and that's the Minister of Culture and Knowledge, Nora from the Imarat, and that's Lena from, and again this was about the Revive the Spirit of Mosul initiative, an ongoing project. Current Minister of Culture who was working on a Tarada project, which is on the boats, is now the Minister, was a previous trainer, working on a small project, but now is the Minister of Culture.
Emina program, Emina project.
He was also part of Emina, but he was also part of Nahrain before becoming a minister. He's working with Rashad on the boats. Okay, so what kind of time do we have?
So we've got an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay, I have a lot to go through, so I need you to quickly keep up with me. So we're going to look at the visiting scholarship scheme. The deadline is 15th of August. Okay? So from this year, the program opened up to Turkey, Iran, and Lebanon. Okay? But our main focus is on Iraq. You have to have a host. This is not so clear. You have to have a host. It says a host. You have to have. Without a host, we won't accept you. So please contact me. You have my number here. You have the email. You have the emails here. nahrain@ucl.ac.uk. So it could be a museum. It could be a university. The application is online. You can download. So the application has also the guidelines. And again, think of a project that suits your own research plan, rather than. And again, it's actually quite broad, sustainable development heritage, very, very broad. And it has to meet one of our 5 aims. We've spoken about those, local expertise, employment, all those things. The application is very simple.
Does it have to be individual applications?
Only individual applications. I had applications for 2 people at once.
Yeah.
2 people, 1 application, doesn't work. So no, for each individual. So the application is available. We need a 500, 1,000 word proposal, which is in the application. I'll show you. You need a permission, I guess, what it is, how it is in Iraq, everywhere, from your university. So you can have that, you need to accompany that with the application. Choosing UK host, not an easy thing. Roger had a previous relationship with Maria, so it's quite...
Actually, for Maria's case was a bit different. I had previous experience with Roger and Ruth.
Yeah.
But in the case of Maria, what speaks for that difficult finding because I didn't have previous experience contact with her except that I was citing it from my PhD.
So you had a network? You had a network of people you contacted?
Even though that's why I talked about that experience was because I insisted on working under her supervision.
Yeah.
It was not for me, it was about connecting to a scholar that her expertise matches mine.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult thing. And that's why I said, because I emailed her, she didn't reply for a while,
Yeah.
and then, I had to, but I mean, that speaks for the fact that I insisted that consistency helped, because, she very much related to that.
Yeah.
I knew her from my PhD, I knew her
Okay.
as a prominent scholar.
Yeah. And I encourage people to work with people they already know. You might end up with a host.
But there is
But she also said that, believe it or not, she said that was a risky thing we both did, and I am surprised how you work like a plug. That's like, because, we were having intellectual connection in terms of research interest, but I mean, it could have gone risky.
Yeah. Allah, how did you find your host?
In the beginning, I made contact with UK ECOMAS. I have one of my colleagues there. She's working. Her name is Dr. Caroline Sandis. And I have my project. It's about Hatra site. It's archaeological site. I think most of you know that site. And this site's been neglected south of Mosul. And actually, I applied 2 times. First time has been refused, and the second time, after I improved my application, been accepted. So UK ECOMAS, they advised me to contact EMINUM project. EMINUM project is endangered archaeology in Middle East and North Africa. And I made contact with one of my colleagues, previous colleague for me, and they accept to host my application. They were interested about this proposal, is how to combine between modern technology, which is GIS, as he
Did
mentioned.
you know them? Did you know them before?
I know the colleague, he's working in but my colleague from UK she advised me to contact them.
Okay, so again, it's using your own network to look for an appropriate host.
True.
And I would advise you to speak on Skype before, okay, you can get an email, but it's good to have a good relationship with your host, because you'll be there for 2 months. It's a rare opportunity. Thank you, Ala. I think we'll come back to you. So these are just examples of the host institutions. This is not an exhaustive list. I don't think Glasgow there? Oh, it is. It could be Edinburgh. It doesn't really, it could be a museum, right? It could be an NGO. It could be an NGO, like ECOMAS, which is an NGO. Okay.
Including here, that means the list is longer.
This is just an example. I don't know why. We should just state this as an example, but I'll tell them to do that. Yeah.
Right. I've got a question probably about the themes of is it you are just focusing on archaeology or
so we don't
if there's any chance for a project, for example, I've got some drafts of proposals. I don't call it, ready proposals. The drafts of proposals about oral history.
Yeah. So that is
particularly the social history. Oral social history.
Yeah. So that is within our remit.
Would it be?
That is within our remit, and I'll come to it. I'll show you where oral history. I'll speak about that in a bit. And if I forget, please remind me. What do the scholarships cover? Basically everything, from the visa to accommodation, flights, and the pocket money. Research costs, scanning, if you need some documents scanned. Local transport in the UK. Do not cover salaries, do not cover English training. That's very, very important. We're not there to train participants on English training. We don't pay long-term or full-time university courses. Dental medical expenses. It's too much. You'd be surprised. Terms and conditions, very important. Please read them. So the British Institute for the Study of Iraq is our partner on this program for the scholarships. They manage the scholarships. I work with them, but they manage the logistics of it. If you have questions, email us. You'd be surprised. People don't email. They don't call. I'm always there, on the computer answering emails, but sometimes people apply and they make simple mistakes. And that's also the case for grants. So I know I want you to speak about their scholarships, but before I forget, this is the application. You can download it. It's available now. Again, very simple. You have to apply in English. You get applications in different languages. You'll be in UK, working in a UK institution. Very, very difficult to just do it in any other language.
I have a ready application for that, but I didn't submit it last year.
Yeah, correct.
Last August.
Full name, occupation, affiliation, email, contact number. Basic. Eligibility, yes. You cannot normally be a previous recipient of a similar visited scholarship, which actually means BISI, British Institute for the Study of Iraq. So this program is really a continuation extension of BISI's program, which has been to fund 1 or 2 scholars for the past 15, 20 years a year. So 1 or 2. So this is an extension of that. So if you've benefited from BISI's scholarships before, you're not eligible to apply. You should be a resident of Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Turkey. You may need to take an English language test. Does not fund the restoration of buildings. We're not archaeologists. We're not, what's it called, cultural management people. It's designed to support the intellectual aspects of cultural heritage and the sustainable development of Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, and Turkey. Without a UK host, you will not be considered. That's just repeating things. Current employer, SBU, address, permission, yes. Rajin has said yes. Move on. UK institution. Okay? Very important. Again, we'll be speaking about this. Name, address, university address, museum address, the dates. These things can change. The date can change. So, and also, if you just need a month, if you only have a month, then you can postpone it. You can have 1 month here and another month, 3 months afterwards. It's up to you. We're flexible. Length of time to complete your project, up to 8 weeks. One application said 4 weeks. Very, very surprised. 8 weeks.
Probably he or she got only permission for 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think maybe it's the you know, so the network aims are the same aims that I discussed in the beginning. So, better understand the current situation, modern history of the Middle East, archaeology, interest in archival research, oral histories, okay? Politics of the region's past, may cover any period in the past 2 centuries to the present. I don't know why that is in there, 2 centuries, but it actually goes back. You can look at something that is older, like Hatra. We particularly encourage work on the role of minorities, right? Role of and treatments of women and ethnic minorities and minority groups. Raise the profile of local expertise, testing university level teaching materials, decipherment analysis of archaeological finds. So not dig in, but you can work on the actual outputs of those excavations. Asian languages, that's not what we do actually, we don't do Asian languages, but there's something related to the broader goals of the Nahrain network, Asian languages that can happen, that can work, particularly if it has a social development element. Improve job prospects. When people say that, they often look at tourism, but it's much more than just tourism. We support research in helping to better prepare school leavers for university humanities courses, develop locally effective university teaching materials in relation to heritage. We funded one of those programs with HOLA, UKH. Okay, again, going back to our aims, better serve local needs, fund research to better understand local audiences, interests, needs, obstacles to engagement with heritage, cultural infrastructure, Working with museums, also very important. And the last one is also about, again, going back to our aim, our last aim, healing reconciliation through heritage. Heritage broadly defined. And those are our 5 aims. So your research has to be about one of these aims. Okay. CV, okay, basic education, employment, professional responsibilities, academia. Again, going back to what we're talking about, research grants, publications, research outputs of the past 5 years. You don't need 10 pages CV, just this. Sometimes we send this and 10-page CV. Yeah. But we have to discount the CV because it has a lot of personal information. I'm married, 3 children, I'm this, I'm divorced, everything. We don't accept those things. So, because there are copyright issues and also, yeah, so also, title of your research project. In the beginning, it was 500 words, but I found that academics in Iraq found it very hard to write in just 500 words about their research. So we increased it to 1,000 words. Okay? So we doubled it. What work do you want to do? Why do you think it's important? I think everything that Sarah said the past 2 days is in here, right? Why you need to visit your host in the UK? Why are you qualified to do this work? What resources will you need to do this work? Timetable. It's very important to put a timetable. So it looks like it's actually a realistic outline. It's about your outputs, really. This is, there's another part here about outputs. This is available on our application. Outputs, very, very important. I mean, there are some far-reaching outputs. How can you do it in 2 months? How could you do something that is so big, so broad in 2 months? You have to be realistic. So when the reviewers assess these applications, they'll be like, can this applicant achieve his or her goals, objectives in 2 months? It's a very important question. So if you put something that is really, I want to document Mosul's old city in 2 months, you'll be rejected. Yeah. But if you say, I want to document one side, Nuri Hadba in 2 months, yeah, maybe. Outputs are very important. Actually, it says that. This is an important part of the application. I think I did that. Underline. You should explain what specific outputs and results you expect to achieve and how it benefits Iraq. Output can be any reasonable form, short research article, podcast, public talk, draft grant proposal, contribution to the host institution's collections, catalogue, or exhibition. I always encourage people to have an academic output, not a blog, right? Even though it's available there, a podcast. But I always encourage people to actually write. And you have an opportunity to be there in UK, to work with an academic, hopefully with the supervisor hosting you, to write something. Use that opportunity as we've been discussing. Assessment criteria. So these are the things that you're assessed on. Whether the work is important, again, it goes back to so what. Right? Qualifications, experience, to produce research, quality of the proposed research. Is that part of the quality? Is that any part of the stages? Whether the timetable is realistic. I mentioned that. Appropriateness of the UK host. That's also very important. So UK host has to be appropriate to your research. Sometimes people have chosen hosts that are not appropriate. And they don't really maximize the opportunity. How well it meets the Nahain? Again, 5 aims, 1 or 2 or 3 or all 5 aims depending on your research. And this is really important, outputs. And I've seen applications that have failed because of good application. There was one in Kurdistan, very good application, right? But the outputs weren't clear. It's not up to me, it's up to the reviewing committee, the committee that reviews these things. Is it manageable? Again, Nuri Hadba example, or Mosul. In terms of conditions, it's very, very important to read these things, right? Just basic law things, not very important. If your application is successful, support, even if we have included support, application, if you have, just read it, it's really simple. You need to take up the scholarship within 12 months of the offer being made. If you don't, then email us, we might extend it, 90% will extend it. If you are awarded, you will be sent a letter of award, blah, blah, blah. Big opportunities, very important. Also, submission, 15th August is the next one. I think there are more after that. I think it's every 6 months. Do you need a break or can I continue? Yeah? Huh? I think I should continue a bit. Because this is this kind of stuff that is important. Right? To your own research goals, plans, raising money, working with internationals, it's about money, more or less. Managing money for your research needs. Preparing, this is my experience. You can go into the internet and you find out things. But this is my experience and really it's adapted to Iraq's specific situation. As I mentioned, grants are increasingly important to academics. I don't think, do you have grants? Does the KRI government have grants for...
Just recently they started a council and on the Ministry of Higher Education level. What's the name of the council? I think it's called
So
Research
the
Council.
research board.
Yeah, Research Board or
Board of
something like
Research.
that. But that's the thing. When they made announcement, they didn't have application for it.
Oh, was that?
Yes, no,
No.
there was no, seriously, no. I found out that there were no application for that. At that time, at the research center, we were developing draft of proposals. So I was saying, so it's good that he came in at the right time.
Yeah.
So what happened is that they made an announcement for grant, they made a call, and I was saying, is there a criteria? Is there a proposal? Like at least a template, someone to you know? And at that time at the research center, we had some template. I said, we are willing to borrow ours. Because, you know, if you don't have an application, I mean, a template, then what?
Well, speak to us and then we'll...
Thank you. So I mean, that's just to tell you, and I don't blame them for one thing, is that it's very new. Grant is very new.
Yeah.
In fact, just recently in a meeting with Dr. Soran, we were discussing about, because we want to have our own fund for SPU. And we were discussing about the challenges, because we were assessing risk about how to allocate budget, how to say what budget is,
How to design
what
it all.
expenses is allowed, what is not allowed, how to design the whole
Yeah.
thing. So it's a much longer process than just asking people to send us your proposal without having an application for.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a new
It's a
era.
very-
What I can do, if you're interested, I can speak to British Academy. They can help you in terms of understanding. Because this is a synergy. We've done this with you, your partner. And I can speak to you and SPU, and we can have a discussion with the British Academy to design an effective, all social humanities and science, social science and humanities.
But then British, UKRI, UK Research and Innovation, they have other councils, they have also science. I mean, do you think you can do really?
Yeah. We'll have a discussion with Eugene. But I think it's important because we can use this as a platform for that kind of development. So, okay, the importance of research grants, as I said, every single academic in UCL, University College London, LSC now, has to actively pursue research grants. That would be the case in Iraq, maybe 10, 15 years.
If I can support that for grants, but I mean just...
I think all the universities, they have their own power to make these sections. For example, in our university, we do have grant and scholarship section,
Yeah.
which is run by the International Accreditation Service.
Yeah.
So they check they seek for the grants and they apply and then.
Yeah. So in the UK, there are different types of grants. The big ones that have to go through a university, will have to go through a management and peer review. There's internal peer review. So if you, for instance, as an academic, say you're a lawyer or a media, and you see a fund, and maybe Kurdistan outside, dependent, right? What you need to do is, this is again going back to the design, but I've seen this in UK institutions. You have to go to your line manager, or maybe I'll go to Eleanor probably, and say I want to apply for this. But there will be an internal review process, so the academics within the department and university review that before it's sent out to the donor. So making sure, maximizing the chances that grant will get, because it's very competitive. We could talk about that afterwards. So different types. There's where, I mean, like the work, this workshop is £20,000. I applied for it, got it, very small. But there are large grants, 300,000, 100,000, a million, more. I have my supervisor got it a £7.5 million grant. SOAS, £7.5 million grant.
In fact, I reviewed a grant, and I will later share this with you as a UPRI peer reviewer, because I'm a UK Research and Innovation International peer reviewer. So I actually had a proposal, and I learned later on that it was successful. Thankfully, I read it positively because it was a great one. It was 17.3 million pounds.
Yeah. So those type of grants go through the university system. So again, we've been speaking the past 3 days about interdisciplinary approaches in research grants. And I mentioned in the beginning how this is a developmental project through the university, looking at heritage and
It's a collaborative work.
it's a collaborative project, but working with different institutions, yes. But it is the very fabric of this project, Nahai Network, is interdisciplinary. Looks at development, the environment, the social environment, history. I'm in the history department, but I'm not an archaeologist or a historian. But I'm looking at this through a developmental lens. So again, working with these themes are very important. So increasingly, grants are about interdisciplinary approaches. All funders have politics. All funders have politics and agendas. Every single funder. There's no one's going to give you money for the sake of it. I do have exceptions. I do have exceptions.
You are fun then.
No, I have exceptions for my own research because I worked on my book, which I'm working on now for Cambridge, is on the formation of Iraq's NGO sector. So I traced international aid, how it affected local organizations. But again, there's always an agenda, and there's always a certain politics. What does that mean? The terms and conditions associated with that, they have specific aims. We can talk about that a bit more, because I'll get back to that. Focus on what is good for you. Always stress this. Okay, there are grant opportunities, and to be honest with you, Rajin, I also review projects. Not from out for international projects. I review projects. When I see a project that is just designed for the sake of the grant, but he has no relationship or she has no relationship to the grant, I give it a 0.
No, of course.
Yeah. But when I see someone who's specialized in this area, who they have passion, like you have passion for heritage, right? I give it a thumbs up.
That's one of the things in each grant. One of the things, just recently I was in Thailand because I was invited by UPRI, all the peer reviewers were invited as a part of a training and also informing about whether they want to change their assessment criteria. One of the things they were also emphasizing again, and we had webinars, training webinars on how to review international research project and things like that, was the team, the structure of the team, and whether this is doable in terms of the team. They teach you how to not be biased in terms of, this is from Harvard, then I should give that one. But then at the same time, when it goes to the related section, which is related to who will carry this research, you were looking for whether these partners have established, connection, whether there is a risk of running like that. So
it's very important. So again, focus on what's good for you rather than what's good for donors. We don't abide by that in the UK. We don't abide by that. We get applications from Nahai Network to the Nahai Network from a whole host of different people. Because it's money. I mean, we get people who are doing things and they're applying for funding that this is not the area. But again, I would say that the best applications, the ones that nearly always get funded, are those who are with the people who are passionate about the subjects and topics they pursue. I mean, Osama, for instance, a doctor, surgeon, you're a surgeon, right?
No.
But you have passion in heritage. So again, people like Dr. Osama can navigate some of those things because there is a passion there, right? And he writes about cultural heritage. He's a doctor, a medical doctor. But he writes about heritage, and he's got many articles, photos, tweeting, very active. So it creates a picture that this person is actually not just applying for the funds, he has a background in this area. Okay, choosing appropriate partners, again, very important. I've seen lots of applications that are being rejected because they're the synergy is not right. They're put together quickly just for the sake of money, right? They don't have cohesion. This is very important, both here and outside, everywhere. This is the case everywhere. It's not just stay clear what you want to do, not always. Okay, going back to abstracts. I'm going to get to abstracts in a bit, right? Be realistic about your outputs. Again, same thing for the Nahai Network and for the scholarships program. State them clearly. I think the abstract session that we had yesterday, I think sort of underlined that. Don't be upset if your proposal is rejected. Your time is precious, of course, but it's a competition. It's often an international competition. Lots of people apply for the same fund, hundreds and hundreds of applications. Some proposals take weeks, months. This proposal, the Nahai Network, it took over 6 months, right? And there were ones that were rejected. So imagine that, you spend 6 months on this. Donors can read your project from your budget. This is very, very important. I mean, I can read a project from this budget. I don't even have to look at the aims. And I can understand so many things from the budget. And donors understand that better than I do. Don't underestimate costs, and don't overestimate costs. Right? Let them be fair. But again, budgets are probably the most important thing. The most important thing in any project. Budgets are connected to time you spend on the project, who's doing what, and when outputs. I don't have an example of a budget, but I can send you a budget. I can send you a budget from Nahai Network upon agreement from one of the completed projects. Research grants. I can go back. We need a break, or can I get into the research grants applications?
Can I have a question? Regarding the application, can people or an applicant apply more than a time, like after a rejection?
Yes.
So there is no limitation?
There's no limitation. Any other questions? Particularly on this. Okay. Should we take a little break? 5-minute break, okay. Because I have loads more. And abstracts and budgets and So we have three components of our Nahai Network. One is the grants. So we have three components of the Nahai Network. One is the Research Center in Erbil, UKH, OLEB. The other is the scholarships program that I spoke to you about. And the third is the research grants, which I've mentioned. So I'm not going to go through the application itself. The application, I think, is available from the 15th of August. So once the scholarship program, once the scholarship application deadline ends, when we have the research grants. I hope you know the difference. Of course, you know the research grants and the scholarships. So this is on our website.
Actually, sorry, do you mind explaining the difference?
So yes. So the difference, obviously, one is a research project, so it's an actual project regarding. So the research grants two sets of funding. One is £30,000, one is £100,000. You have to work with others. You have to work with a group of researchers, and you can implement it in a museum, in a university. The scholarship is about 2-month placement, not training, to undertake your own research in the UK. So that's the difference. One is a project, as we know, Project Art, and the other one is a scholarship. So, is that okay?
I was hoping to make it more, not only for Nahai, but in general, the difference between scholarship and grant, and like you mentioned in the case of Nahai, so it's the same for others.
It's the same everywhere.
It's a personal fund you get for your own work.
Yeah.
But the grant means a project, so you need to bring people together and so the whole project management.
Yeah. So I'm going to speak about projects. This is the Nahai Network project, research grant. Again, as I said, we have £800,000. I think we spent half of it. The deadline, the next deadline is 15th of November. So I encourage you to apply. Create your own projects, same groups that you have maybe, to design projects. This is a very difficult thing to do because you need to design the project. You need outputs, you need ideas, you need to, it's a very difficult thing to do it's a difficult thing for UK academics to do. And I've looked at loads of projects from UK academics. Very, very poor. Because these are the people who are experienced in project management or project cycles and budgets. They make mistakes in numbers. They make mistakes in terms of outputs and resources and so many other things. Getting it right is, there's no such thing as getting it right. But getting it to sort of elevated level really needs a lot of experience, and I would encourage people to talk to each other. I think a lot of us have worked in an NGO or have come across a research institution where there's been funding, and we learn a lot from these things. So anyway, so the research grant that we have is for Iraqi academics, including KRI, to apply for, and it's also for Lebanese and Turkish researchers from this year. We had 26 applications only for the last round, which was in May 15th. Not many, right? Well, actually, maybe it is a lot, depending. The next deadline is only for small grants, up to £30,000, $40,000, $42,000, and that can be up to a year. Who can apply? So you have to be an academic, right? Or non-academic institutions such as a local heritage organization, NGO. It could be a museum, right? Slimani can apply a museum.
Sorry, for each round, do you accept one application?
No. It depends on the funds, but it depends on the quality of the application. Sometimes we just don't fund projects because that round didn't have good applications, right? We're not forced to fund an application that's not very good. But we fund between 3-4 projects a year. Sorry, each round, every 6 months, okay? But this was the last round for large grants, which was the May 15th. But I always encourage Iraqis to apply for the small grants, right? Because you don't need international collaboration. You can do it yourself. You don't need a UK academic. Why would you need a mate who's from here, had training experience, right? You don't need anything more than that. And I always encourage Iraqis to apply for small grants. Right? There are reasons why that is, but also for the fact that you are here and that grant it would go into, all of it would go into Iraq. The large grants, mixture of UK salaries, big salaries, and then some of it, hopefully half of it, goes to Iraq. It depends on the project design. But again, I encourage people to apply. Well, you don't have a choice now. You only have the small grants, November 15th. How to apply? Guidance notes, again, it's in the application. Always look to our Facebook, Twitter account, always, have updates. Nahrain Network at uclac.uk is our main email. Complete the form, collect the necessary documentation. So if you're working with Slimani Museum, get permission from Slimani Museum, get a document, a letter. Selection process. This is the criteria. Value, urgency of the proposed research, quality of the research. Qualifications, experience of the applicants, we've spoken about that. Just in relation to urgency and the value quality, this is very important. I mean, you can propose a project but because you're from here, you know what's needed. You know that there are priorities in Iraq. So I think it's important to actually to connect to the things around you, society, You have a castle, is that money? Qala?
Yes, in Dukan. I think
Dukan?
it's not a castle,
a project around the Qala, because I know the one in Kirkuk is damaged by Saddam. That is a priority project.
The one in Kirkuk.
Kirkuk.
That one is Ukraine's not.
Yeah,
for that, I think in
Spirit of Mosul. This is a UNESCO project. Yeah. So the projects we fund is not just Mosul.
We have in Koya as well.
All over the country.
They're supporting Koya.
Koya, okay. Yeah. So you can see the priorities here. I mean, I just gave you the example of Kirkuk because I know that was heavily damaged for the past 20 years, 30 years. So that's a priority project. But again, we don't do archaeological or restoration work. But if you look at Kirkuk Castle, at Citadel, right, and its relationship to society, how people interact with this site, engage with it, right, documentation, right? Understanding its position in history, in society. That is.
Can UNESCO's work on it?
Yeah, I'm sure, but it's just an example. Okay, and the feasibility of the proposed management plan, timetable, budget, also very important. You need a very clear timetable for these projects. For what's going to be done and implemented, and a really clear timetable. So it looks like people, the donor that is reading the understands that this is actually a professional project. They know what they're doing. The research is there. You've done your homework. Viability, suitability of the project's plan outputs, dissemination, and publication strategy. Publication is very important. This is a research project. The Nahrain Network is a research project with developmental goals. So again, I always encourage the small grant applicants to have one research paper, right? One publication. And the large ones two research publications. And it's important because, again, we're all academics here. The likely long-term sustainability impact of the project, again, that's also very important. Sustainability, again, is a complex, nebulous, contested word, but basically it means what happens afterwards, right? What happens after your project? It needs some imagination. Degree to which the project meets the aims and addresses the themes of the Nahrain Network, the 5 aims, going back to the 5 aims. So, selection process. Oh, we have that. Yeah. So yeah, we normally tell people the applicants within 1 month of the deadline.
The last one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The degree.
Yeah. So again, this is because our funder is the Global Challenges Research Fund. So I told you this is a £1.5 billion pot of money from the International Development Agency, DFID. Okay, and that's where we got our money from Nahrain. And that pot of money again is about funding UK research and development projects, international development projects. And I mentioned this, but it's important to understand this. You can download the PDF to understand what official development assistance, compliance, all these things, very technical things. Basically, what it means is that it has to have a development orientation. One of the projects we funded was Roji's project here at SPU. If Rojin wants to speak about it, but you can speak about it. We can come back to it, Rojin, because yeah. But this is a 12-month large project, and this is the one that's been advertised here. This one, Cultural Heritage Network. This is our project with collaboration with Leicester, University of Leicester, University of Reading, right? And it's UCL, Shabak Nahrain, GCRF, Arts Humanities Research Council, who are they manage our project, but GCRF is the funder, which is tied to DFID. Rojin's project is about, I'll read it to you. The project team will establish a local heritage network and centre aims to the Mali Polytechnic, bringing together cultural heritage stakeholders, experts, NGOs, policymakers, and local communities together. Structured and semi-structured focus groups, workshops will identify and analyze cultural heritage challenges, opportunities. So basically, expertise. It's directly looking at one of our aims, which is strengthening local expertise. A series of seminars and lectures by local, international experts will explore best cultural practices, heritage practices, increasing connections, strengthening civil society. Many of the aims. So we can get back to this, but I want to go on. Do you want to talk about this, Rojin?
Maybe you.
Yeah, I can go back. Yeah. So I was going to speak about the application, but we don't have time for that. So I could speak to you privately about the small grants, right? I'm not responsible for the small grants, so if your small grant is not accepted, don't be angry at me. I'm only responsible for the scholarship, so if the scholarship program is...
Then we can be angry.
No, I'm just kidding. No, there's a review, there's a team that reviews these things. Professionalism. So I want to talk about the writing workshops, because I think this is really important, because the writing workshops is funded by the British Academy. And it's an interesting case study of what we've been speaking about. So the British Academy is the UK's foremost body for social sciences, humanities. It gives money to researchers, international researchers, to me in this case, and have made this possible. So the project that I applied for right, is this one. So this is an annual program. So you probably can apply for next year's one, right? You can apply for another one. Which actually tries to create collaborative links between researchers in the UK, the Global South, right? In the Global South. Promote research from the South and to publish, so academic journals. That's the whole goal of this workshop. This is what the Writing Workshop 2009. So I applied for this grant. So this was a grant on the BA British Academy website, right? The maximum was £20,000, right? It's closed now, so I managed to reach. I had to get Eleanor's permission for this program, and she said yes, apply. This complements the Nahal Network activities, and it works with our partners, and it has synergies, which really like synergies, you know, like ripple effects in society. It has works with this person, creates civil strengthening. So the Writing Workshops 2019, I think it's the only one that's been funded in Iraq. I think the only one in its history, which is good. So the program, the outline of the program, so I'm just using this as a case study. In terms of funding and research, abstract, I'm going to bring the whole thing around back to all the different the sessions that we've had. We try to anyway, it's very difficult. I only have half an hour left. So it's not currently, this is from the website, so it's not currently open for applications, but I'm just using this as a case study to look at how to prepare a project for the BA, just as an example. The lead applicant must be based at a UK university or eligible research institute, so I guess you can't apply for that. But you know, working with international academics in the UK, you can be good partners to their projects and to your project. Also, I would like to stress the point, underline is the important point. I've said this many times, we're in a strategic part of the world. Importantly, I mean, everybody's interested in Kurdistan, everybody's also interested in the rest of the country. Various reasons. Everybody's interested in Basra at the moment. Everybody's interested in Najaf, Baghdad, Mosul. Very, very important. You have the agency, right, to propose projects. Okay, like this one. You're not eligible to propose, I mean, because it's just for UK academics. But if you have a strong network of people, you can speak to your fellow academics in the UK and say, this is what I need. I can't apply, can you? Can we work together? Those who are astute in fundraising do this. People do this all the time. So yes, you're not eligible, but you can be a partner. Rojin is a co-applicant in this project. So the point I'm making is that, again, it's about strengthening your networks as a process of developing your career plans and your funding opportunities, strengthening your funding opportunities. I'm just going to read what the aim of the writing workshops are. Not this publishing workshop. This publishing workshop is part of the writing workshops program. Okay? These writing workshops aim to cultivate professional networks and mentoring and provide access for early career researchers in the Global South to the academic requirements of journals, including international journals, which is what we've been doing. Equipping, right? Them with the necessary knowledge to publish in these journals, right? It is expected that the journal editor and UK-based scholars, this is Sarah here, and Lloyd, and me, and me, right? To support workshop participants to produce research papers in preparation for publication. That's what we do, and this is why Lloyd is very, very important to all of this, because he's the editor of 2 journals. And the journal that he's the editor, the important one, the known one, the British Journal of Middle Eastern Studies, we should all send applications to journal articles to him. I think we should just try and deluge, just send those the journal articles abstracts. I can help you with those, particularly those in heritage studies, right? The areas that I'm looking at. And I think this is an important opportunity. This is what Lloyd has been speaking to me about. He says, if there are other academics here who are interested in publishing, send me the abstract, right? Get you published. That's so important. Again, it's about raising local expertise, profile of local knowledge and expertise. Go ahead.
Excuse me, is it possible for NGOs to apply for this program or not?
This is an academic program,
Just
purely academic, no NGOs. The BA one, yeah. Because again, it's about developing these links between UK and the Global South universities. I don't like that word, but do you like it, Sarah?
I hate it.
Yeah.
Global
Are we from the Global South? Iraqis here?
So the technical definition, yes, Iraq, even though we're north of the equator, is part of the global south. It's the stupidest term ever.
Yeah. I didn't create this term. So workshops must take place before 15th of December 2009. The next workshop I think is in Kufa, in Najaf. Hopefully it will be implemented before
Thank you
December.
for showing that, because I have been keeping saying, there are some rushing, appear in this workshop, and that, some people say why during Ramadan time and why. So I have been keeping explaining that the fund must be in, this
In 6 months.
In 6 months, and we yet have another workshop to arrange in Kufa and everything, and we are aiming for, I don't know, maybe other activities.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very, very tight time frame that we
Yeah.
So if we haven't done it now, we wouldn't have been able to.
That's right.
Yes.
So we rushed to do this in the exams in Mosul, I think in here, and we had Ramadan. Difficult.
Is the Kufa same as this one? Or is it-
Same thing.
Same
Same
thing.
Same thing.
Same thing, just a different location.
Yes, we have high applicants from south and middle and so Muslims.
Yeah, but I think in future programs we can create we can design programs, we can design workshops. We work with one cohort, so one group, and then meet them in another 4 months and see where they are. I think that's really important. This is what I've taken up. So let's follow up, right? And I think we try to do this with our workshop, but that's not how it was designed. So if you want to do a group exercise, let's not do group exercises because it's in the end. But I was going to ask you to do a group exercise. But so the group exercise is strengthening higher education standards and publishing in Iraq. You have $20,000, 6 months maximum, same thing. And I was going to ask you how to strengthen how to preparing a project, the idea, goals, objectives, who will do it, key outputs. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm just going to look at examples of projects that have been funded under the BA writing workshops, including this one. And then we're going to go back to the abstracts, because I think that's really important. So these are the projects that have been funded under the Writing Workshops 2019. Okay, I'm going to quickly read it. So, catalyzing research capacity, Ethiopia, universities, SOAS, Africa Journal Academy, so that's more about the one journal, right? Writing Society, Ethics and Politics of Research in precarious times, precarious meaning very unstable, enhancing opportunities for research publication for emerging academics, you're emerging academics, we know emerging academics, you're academics, right? Supported exiled Syrian academics in preparing journal articles from research. That's supposed to be for research. Gender, politics, and development in the Pacific Islands. Countering asymmetries, inequality in knowledge production on Africa. Is it on Africa? I'm not sure about spelling. Publishing, mentoring workshop, Lagos, Nigeria. Lagos in the world in Lagos. Inciting creativity, Asia. I think there are problems with the grammar in English. But these are the projects that have been funded under the BA writing workshop. Okay? The really important point about this, interdisciplinarity. Right? Look how interdisciplinary, right? Is that the word? Interdisciplinary. Creativity, asymmetries, knowledge production, exiled Syrian academics, right? Africa, journal, ethics, politics of research, gender. So you can see, because the fund was set up that way, right? It's about publishing. So the different academics in the UK have prepared and designed these projects to suit their own needs, their own specific needs, like I have, and I'll show you. So these are some of the other projects also funded by the British Academy of Writing Workshops. And then I'm going to quickly go through it. African translation, right? Publishing in social sciences, University of Juba, which is southern Sudan. Okay. Writing for sustainable development, Africa again. Most of these are about socio-legal journals, Global South writing workshops, so our lawyers could be Iraq publishing workshops, that's our one. Bridging the past to print, archaeology for and by West African scholars. Writing, mentoring workshops, perspectives of West African scholars, childhood studies, discourses. So again, very, very broad. I'm going to look at the abstracts of these projects that have been funded. I think that's important. I guess you can't read this, but I'll read it. So this is the support and exile Syrian academics in preparing journal articles from research or for research. And again, it goes back to our session yesterday about abstracts. So the same principles apply to grant writing, the same principles, especially in academic or research grant writing. We assess you on the same principles as a journal article. There are differences, of course, particularly in relation to outputs, but you need a question, methodology, all those things you need. So this one, look at the abstract, it's three sentences. This project comprises a writing workshop to be held in Istanbul for 5 days in 2019. So, right, stayed in the activity, right? The participants are all Syrian academics in exile who have been undertaking research into the role of Syrian higher education and future post-conflict reconstruction. So again, positioning themselves in relation to the grant. And this is what Sarah has been saying. You have to position yourself in relation to the goals of the grant, which is the BA grant. The findings from this research have relevance beyond Syria, so again, create an impact here, and contribute to a broader debate on the role that higher education can play following conflict. Right? 3 sentences, bang, 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 got the grant, £20,000. 1 workshop, which I think is overpriced, by the way. I have 2 workshops, but I may have 3 workshops too, just trying to milk this grant. All right. This is another project that was funded under the writing workshop. So he starts with history. Since January 2016, Turkish academia has experienced drastic changes, including the targeting of thousands of higher education, staff and institutions in the form of investigations, dismissals, expulsions, prosecutions, travel restrictions. So you can see this person is trying to help Turkish academics in relation to their troubles. Hundreds of academics who have pioneered critical scholarship in Turkey and who have signed the peace petition calling for an end to military operations in the Kurdish region have lost their jobs. The process has had a devastating impact, particularly on early career researchers who have lost institutional security, intellectual support due to the dismissal of their supervisors and colleagues. I don't think a project like this could be ever funded in Iraq. Right? It's too political.
Yeah.
Right? This workshop aims to help tackle the structural inequalities resulting from this process and provide those affected by it with access to information networks crucial for academic. So again, you can see this is about academic production, but it's about their own project, which is to help Turkish academics, Kurdish Turkish academics who have been, pressured by the government in Turkey.
Will it be held in Turkey or?
Istanbul, it says. Does it say Istanbul? It doesn't say where. This is the abstract, yeah. I doubt this is going to be held in Turkey.
No, it's not.
Yeah, right. Okay, so this is an abstract. So again, some abstracts, it depends on the grant. These abstracts, right, as opposed to the Nahrain Network abstracts, are more oriented towards the sort of practical side of, but again, it is academic. This is increasingly an academic abstract. This is not just about projects, NGOs. You can see there's a change in thinking about how people look at research. Research is increasingly about its impact in society. So people are looking at these things. So these are all researchers producing research, development, trying to help people. Okay?
All the ones that you have said, they are all workshops.
Yeah. So the program is called the Writing Workshops 2019.
And it's anything.
Yeah, so I'm giving you examples from just the BA fund. So again, you have to look at the criteria, terms of reference, the politics, the objectives and aims of each funder. So this funder is just about the workshop. That's why it's called writing workshops. That's why I call mine the writing workshops, publishing workshops. So this one, Bridging the Past to Print Archaeology for and by West African Scholars. In the past decade, important archaeological research by West African researchers has significantly improved our understanding of pre-colonial societies and their achievements. However, such data have not yet been made, have not been made to published form, largely because their authors, some now in academic posts, lack the networks, knowledge to key international journals. There are problems with the grammar in English here.
Shows you that English doesn't matter. Yes. My final point. If it's academically thought through, the grammar doesn't matter.
So what I think has happened in this case, which is why so in this case, the academic in Benin and Ghana, right, West Africa, have actually written these on behalf of the UK academic.
Yes.
That's obvious. UK academics don't make mistakes like this in English. So what's happened is that, again, going back to the networks, we've been speaking, cultivating professional networks and academic networks. This person, Professor Anne Haware, University of East Anglia, has allowed a local academic or academics in Ghana to write this proposal, but it's under her name that she submitted it. So again, very important. I'll go to another one. Interdisciplinary and collaborative research on peace and security, publishing and grant writing workshops for early career researchers in Eastern Africa. Research has the potential to influence policy through the dissemination of outcomes in international journals. Regrettably, right? Sub-Saharan Africa produces very few articles in international journals in comparison to other parts of the world, specifically, right? So you can tell again, this is not being produced by UK academic. Maybe it has. Maybe it has. Do you think? UK academics make mistakes too.
Oh yeah, I have read, because I'll read some of the work of academics. Sometimes they'll listen them through. Some terrible writing.
Yeah.
Terrible writing. Still gets published.
Where was I?
Specifically.
Yeah, not regrettably.
Specifically
in peace and security related publications. So those are kind of the area that they're looking at, the contributions. Research remains largely as grey literature. Many who publish do so singularly, like in a singular way. They are also more established male academics, scholars, who therefore receive the largest portion of international research grants. Inevitably, right? The lack of publications in international journals limits the opportunities for policy engagement by early career researchers, especially women. Evidence suggests that research published in international journals is more likely to influence policy. This is what we've been speaking about. Evidence suggests that research published in international journals is more likely to influence policy. That's really important. I think that's like the heart of what we've been speaking about. Getting our voices out there so that the projects that donors design are not wasted. Right? Lots of international projects are wasted in Iraq because they're not designed by Iraqis or designed for other interests. Therefore, there is an overriding imperative to support early career researchers, including especially women, to develop and to enhance their capacity to write for publication in international journals, prepare successful research project grant proposals, undertake collaborative interdisciplinary research, and so on and so forth. So again, right, an academic who has a very specific objective, key outputs, and the idea again is to in this case she is positioning herself in relation to the objective, which is again making it very clear that this is about publishing, right? Let's do my one.
Yeah.
All right. So
This
this is our one.
Let's criticize and try.
Let's be critical.
Well, actually, all right, let's move on. So this is our one. So this is the one that was funded. And this was the abstract for the £20,000 workshop. And again, these are two workshops, not just one. And by the way, we don't take salaries, like none of us take salaries because we're not allowed to take salaries. And again, this is an important point, but we'll get back to it. Decades, this is, I wrote this, so they're typical mistakes. Decades of isolation and conflict have detrimentally affected the quality of academic production in Iraq. Compared to its neighbors, the total number of academic articles published in international journals in any given year is remarkably low. We know that. Iraq's national educational system has seen few, if any, major reforms since the 1970s. The large majority of graduating academics have had little experience or exposure to interdisciplinary research methods, an emerging gap in the country between a small number of Iraqi academics who have been educated outside Iraq and those who have not, has also been a source of emerging friction. We've seen that, right? The different tiers of academics in Iraq, those who've been trained outside, who come, and those who have English, those who don't have English. I'm trying to address this in this program. The project attempts to strategically intervene, right? So this is good words for applications. To strengthen the intellectual infrastructure, again, you know, using good words, terms, by offering two workshops to improve publishing standards, facilitate learning between Iraqi colleagues, and introduce new interdisciplinary research methodologies. Right? You can critique it, right? But you can see, I mean, it's about the situation in Iraq, right? And the lack of reform, what's needed. Yeah, that's the project. So yeah, so do you want to speak anything? Because I'm in the
Yes, by all means.
Do you want to speak about the KRI or?
Just very briefly, if you don't mind,
I have a question before that.
This is your project, and this is the thing afterwards.
I have a question for applications. We are struggling with, I myself, sorry, I'm struggling with cases, projects, how to make it.
So it's a design project.
Do you have any ideas on that?
Pardon?
Do you have any ideas to follow the project? Because I find it very difficult.
Oh, if you apply for Nahai Network, you can ask us. You can ask us. So this is also very important. If you have a question, ask. Right? We rejected lots of programs and projects because the budgets are all over the place. Right? It doesn't, because you're competing with other people who prepared the budget and you know, it looks good. The project can be good, but if your budget is weak, if you have made lots of mistakes, then it's often rejected. Not always, depending on the reviewers and how sympathetic they are to the review, to the project. But what I suggest is that you email us, Nahai Network, at the end here, right? And ask what does a direct allocated expense or I don't know those things. I don't work. I work in scholarships. So always ask. I think it's always important to ask. And I think sometimes you have a period in which you can ask. Sometimes you can ask right up to the end of the deadline. Right up to the deadline. Sometimes it's just a period. So I always suggest if it sounds stupid and just email them because it's your life, right? It's your project. Right? Even, we get lots of emails from UK academics asking very simple questions, right? Just ask.
I think some of you will have some opinion or something. Just briefly, I would like to make some thanks, but before that, this is something that I wanted to make you aware. UKRI, that's where I am peer reviewing for. So UK Research and Innovation, that's where they recruit international peer reviewers. And as an Iraqi academic, I have I don't know what to say, whether it will be an honor or not, but I am the only Iraqi international peer reviewing member, doing peer reviewing for UKRI's international project, like a research project. So, but then soon there will be a call. There will be a call for others who are interested in also, who think that they can do peer reviewing. I will let you know through different channels. But currently that's something, one of the best practices for me to learn about grant writing is what's actually serving as a reviewer. Because you would learn a lot from by just changing that role. It's just like, it gives you a lot of, insight about how the review process goes. Then that will help you when you write your own projects and proposals, saying, oh, these are the things that I wanted to consider. And now with that, so I would like to
Thank you, Roger. What's the evaluation sheet?
Yes, we have all of that.
Okay, great.
So have everyone filled the evaluation form? But I have something that I would like to do before we end the session. First of all, I would like to thank the project leading applicant, Dr. Miguel, for taking this initiation. Like he mentioned, we are doing this like, unlike in the case of some other grants, free, like there are no salary involved in this grant. So I mean, thank you very much for initiating that, and as you can see, it has been such a need for this in the landscape. And thank you very much for and thank you very much for Professor Eleanor Robson, who's also very supportive for the kind of works that we do here, and also this one as well. And a special thanks for our speakers, Professor Lloyd and Dr. Sarah, for coming from UK. And I cannot imagine arriving that day and giving a presentation in the afternoon, the same thing as doing arriving overnight and giving presentation in the morning. So thank you very much for all your hard work and all your great presentation and insight. And also thank you very much for our funder, British Academy, for offering this excellent training opportunity at this time. And a special thanks for SPU President for facilitating all the logistics and support to be able to hold this during such a weekend time. I mean, and in this, we are heading for a holiday, a long holiday. And thank you very much for the people at the Career and Development Center for giving us this space for holding this event, which is headed by Dr. Soran. And they helped us along with arranging the logistics here. And thank you very much for Dr. Hakim from the Technical College of Media Administration for providing the camera, for being able actually to recording all the events and the presentation, and that we will be sharing after 18. And then the service people, Mr. Rozat, who is behind the scene, just making sure that if the electricity runs, then he will turn on the generator. That he has been here for 3 days without even anyone of us seeing him, but he is in the back scene, and also other service people here at SPU. And thank you very much. If there are any more people, we really appreciate everyone's help to make this. And thank you very much for all of you. Thank you. And thank you very much for all of you for coming here. We completely appreciate your time and your engagement, and also all the feedback and suggestions that you gave. And last but certainly not the least, to the very dedicated and tireless CHN project team members. With putting everything on this, and who are tolerating all the sudden changes I do and I ask, so you know, that comes up that things that we require. So thank you very much for, I am truly blessed with having them and working with them. So thank you very much for you all.
Thanks indeed for Dr. Nihad for supporting Zaki to train their academic writing. Thanks indeed for Dr. Rodina for the excellent hosting and organizing this workshop. Thanks indeed for all of you. Thanks indeed for all Thanks indeed for all the surrounding mountains.